Welcome to the Disney Hour Express podcast. I'm Abby.
And I'm Rob. We are two hopelessly romantic Disney enthusiasts,
Sharing fun stories, secret tips, and family travel experiences.
If you are a Disney newbie, or maybe a season pass holder, we hope you find this information helpful.
We turned our love of Disney into a unique boutique travel agency that books Disney and Universal vacations.
We've got a lot of stories, so cozy on up, choose your favorite drink,
Whether that be a cocktail or a hot chocolate,
and enjoy the Disney Hour Express.
Hey, welcome to episode 55. Today we're
double Cinco.
Nice. Today we're going to talk all about Disney lands that were never meant to be. Ooh.
I heard this is Sammy Hagar's favorite episode.
Oh, is it now? I don't even know who Sammy Hagar is.
Get this reference? Oh boy. Okay.
Nope, didn't get it.
Fair enough. Let's just leave it there.
Sorry.
Let the listeners figure that one out, and you, I guess. That's how you know you have a good podcast, when you have your co-host no idea what you're talking about. Just leave it out there.
I mean,
right
that
in the
is
introduction.
most of our episodes. I'm not gonna lie. Fake it till you can look it up later.
Fair enough.
Yeah. In any case, we have been doing a lot of research this weekend because our idea for what we wanted to talk about was definitely about the lands that Disney did not develop. So they had to either release statements or bought parcels of land, or started with the ideas of the projects, but they just didn't come through. So we've had a lot of those. We've talked in the past about ideas that started and then failed. And that happens a lot with companies that are so invested in developing new things continuously. That's what Disney's all about. So what about these things that just never took off?
And I think part of that was the inspiration that from that idea was like watching all those like those Imagineers
behind the scenes,
and talking about and how they bring up all this stuff. I mean, you could go into Walt, original like Epcot, his vision of Epcot and what actually came to be,
right?
And what,
exactly. So there's so many steps beyond, and then how it actually turns out is usually very, very different. But of course, very well loved.
Yes.
So it's so interesting. I love that. I'm going to talk about a couple of places, and Rob's going to talk about a couple of rides, I believe, correct? And then we'll wrap it up with some current news. But so the first place I'm going to talk about is called Disney Sea. I love a good aquarium and a good sea visit with all the animals and everything. So Disney Sea was an idea that started in 1990, and this was going to actually be a nautical park designed to be situated on Long Beach, California. So all the way over there. It was an aquatic themed amusement park, and they unveiled the idea actually in July of 1990, and the plans for Disney Sea included a 2-story aquarium in the center of the park, and the designers had plans to make the features interactive and educational for guests.
Oh, education on vacation.
Everybody knows how much I love that.
An Abby special.
I know.
I heard they just started referring to that. Anytime education comes up in a plan, they just call it the Abby.
The Abby.
Yeah. We're going to go full Abby. I'm like, oh. Okay.
And they sigh. Is that really what comes out from my education on vacation idea? So the aquarium was slated to be named Oceana and was to include the interactive exhibits and a working laboratory. I find this really interesting because we've got over at Animal Kingdom kind of a very, not a working laboratory, but we've got a hospital for the animals that come through for just like general procedures. I don't think anything super serious what they do at that hospital, because it's a viewing hospital. You can see it as a Animal Kingdom guest from the outside behind a glass window. Of course, you're not in there, but So a working laboratory, I would find very interesting.
But see, when you say laboratory, I think of like that they
dinosaur eggs,
or that they're like trying to put lasers on sharks or something. Like
well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, what is a working laboratory? Well, really? I mean, are they trying to create more sustainable environments?
They're splicing
and growth
DNA.
And
Turtles to sharks. Turtle shark. The shark with a hard turtle shell. That sounds frightening. Sorry. I'm gonna pitch that to sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that sounds awesome.
There we go.
So this would have been similar to Living the Seas Pavilion at the Land Pavilion at Walt Disney World's Epcot. So that's interesting too, because I always feel like when you go to Living with the Seas Pavilion, I always try to get the kids to stop and take a breath and actually spend time in this area, because I feel like there's so much to offer. Did you even know they have a touch tank? Have you personally ever gone to the Living Seas touch tank?
I generally do not participate in these touch tanks.
You're not a toucher.
I'm not a toucher
of living objects.
I'm not. I mean, I don't know how to answer that. That was too broad of a thing, but I guess of aquatic life, I just like.
Gotcha.
I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yes.
But I can't remember, to be honest with you. I remember the big shark, Bailey put her head through Bruce's
face.
Mouth. We're still trying to find out where the dolphins are.
I know. For real. Where are the dolphins?
Where?
But in anyways, so they were kind of basing the idea off of that. The theme park, was met with a lot of backlash from multiple parties, including locals of the area and other. They actually came up with a whole new California Coastal Act to stop this project from moving forward. Yeah, so the Westcott plan was then turned into something different, which is now Disney California Adventure, which is really interesting. So they
was originally called Westcott.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, totally, completely different idea. But the concepts for this were proposed over in Tokyo. And Tokyo actually has Tokyo Disney Sea. And it did really, really well. In September of 2001, Tokyo Disney Sea opened. Super successful. It's one of the most visited parks in the world. I mean, not in the top 1, 2, or 3, but it's in the top 10, which I think is very interesting. There are currently 7 themed lands or ports of call over at Tokyo Disney Sea, and the entrance to the park is the Mediterranean Harbor, which opens up to 6 more nautically themed ports, which are American Waterfront, Lost River Delta, Port Discovery, Mermaid Lagoon, Arabian Coast, and the Mysterious Island. There's an 8th port of call named Fantasy Springs, which is currently under construction and will be open in June 6, 2024.
I've taken a brief looking around of the Tokyo Disney Sea and the seeing all their lands. I mean, it's some really, they really go all out over there.
Oh yeah, it's very immersive. It's just like
everything's very
incredible.
Themed and like whatever. If it's a land that has something to do with I think they have a big what's the zoo one that I can't think of.
Okay, a big zoo.
No, but yeah, what's the name of the movie? The Zootopia. Yeah, they have like a Zootopia. They have like a big Zootopia over there, and just everything looks really well done and all.
Yeah, it does. Even there, they had the themed. Was it them that did the themed Anna and Elsa Frozen rooms? Was it ever in Tokyo, or was that's
Tokyo
Disney? Yes, I know, different.
Yeah, they're different.
But I just think that they are like really on top of these.
Frozen. Yeah,
amazing.
The Arendelle looks amazing.
Yeah, I love that. But here we are.
Back here with just Disney
just
World.
regular old Disney. Just kidding. We love it.
Galaxy's
Obsessed.
Edge. I don't want that.
So
never going again.
Another one, which I thought was really interesting, was going to be the National Harbor Resort Hotel. This idea landed in 2009, and it was supposed to be a 500-room hotel to be located at the National Harbor. So this is a little south of Washington, D.C., and Maryland's National Harbor. And it was an attempt. It was supposed to be near the National Convention and Visitor area in Maryland. Mm-hmm. Disney had purchased 11 acres for this hotel at $11 million. I think that's super interesting because Washington, D.C. is a very visited place, right? You've got all of these museums that are free to go to, and continuously people are always visiting. It's just never not busy in Washington, D.C. So to open up a kind of theme parky resort area, I guess not so much a theme park, but like a resort area, I feel like that would have been a really awesome move, but I do understand why it didn't come through, because it could have been also very far-fetched too. Yeah. So it was a 300-acre tourist area along the Potomac, which is the Maryland's National Harbor, that would have kind of supported these 500-room hotel because you've got your shopping areas and places to visit and all sorts of things. There's no lack of things to do. And there was kind of these predictions and sayings that the resort itself might actually be a combination of Disney Deluxe Resorts and Disney Vacation Clubs resorts.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Which makes sense. But then it makes me think of that resort over in, I believe, South Carolina that Disney has. Is it the Vero Beach Resort? Like, you can never, ever, ever, ever find a room there. Like, it's so bizarre to me that that they even like how do you get in as a travel agent? And we've looked so many times, and we know people that have gone because their parents were DVC holders in that area, but that seems to be the only way that you can get in there. So I wonder DVC. If this would be similar to that, where it's like, oh yeah, I know of that. And then that's it. Like, you just can't actually ever get in. Very highly sought after. But so at the same time that this National Harbor Resort was going into place and they had purchased it, Disney had also purchased 21 acres in Ko'olina, and that's in Hawaii, and they had the idea of opening a beautiful resort there. It's the resort we now know as Aulani. Observers thought that Disney might be waiting to see how this Hawaiian resort did prior to breaking ground on the National Harbor Resort. Now, Aulani, I mean, it didn't do as amazing in those first couple of years as they were hoping, but I still think it held its ground. It's been a pretty wonderful resort, all in and all out.
I mean, how could you go wrong?
I know.
In Hawaii.
Beautiful Hawaii beaches, wonderful food, get the characters that come through. I
mixed
mean,
in with
awesome.
A little bit of Disney magic. Yeah.
So this was quickly canceled. November 2011, it was canceled. The projects that moved forward instead of this project included the expansion of Fantasyland in the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World and the overhaul of California Adventure at Disneyland Resort, greenlighting a $4.4 billion resort in Shanghai, China, and the recent announcement of an Avatar land to be built at Disney's Animal Kingdom. So I do agree that building Pandora was probably one of the best decisions that Disney made for Animal Kingdom. It completely revamped the idea of the park and made it, you know, for those who aren't like super keen on animals or any of that stuff, it just made a whole new adventure for them over at Animal Kingdom.
I'm not going to say anything because it's a big part of what I'm going to talk about a little bit later on.
Amazing. I like that. So the last one I'm going to talk about is actually the most recent.
This is going to be the last time you hear Abby's voice for the rest of the episode.
Oh, Are you kicking me out of the room?
The truth be told, Abby is dealing with a sinus issue, and so
sounds really weird.
We've pushed this off. This is Sunday that we're recording, and so I said to her this morning as we were talking about breakfast plans. I was like, "Look, if you're not feeling good, I can just do a short episode." Of just a filler so that we put something out there. And she gave me a weird look. She was
like we all do know this is the Abby show, right?
Yeah, what do you mean? No one wants to listen to you talk for 20 minutes. That's ridiculous.
That's 0% true, but I do like to support you and be here and rally.
I saw it in your eyes. I saw what you were saying.
No. Can I also mention that somebody has a big birthday coming up this week?
And he's sleeping over there on the couch. Somebody's turning 2.
It's you, mister.
Orlando.
And we are going to officially wish you a happy birthday right now to Rob.
What? There's another Rob in the room?
That's you, my friend.
I don't have birthdays anymore.
He is the hardest man to buy gifts for. I'm just going to say that right here and right now.
I disagree, but I buy things for myself, and it's usually pretty easy.
And that is the answer, because he already has everything he wants.
I have you and the girls. Yeah.
I love it. Anyways,
okay.
So we talked a little bit about this particular project just because it was throughout the time in which we started recording this podcast. Yes. It was the Lake Nona project. And this was very exciting to us because we love hearing them about the expansions in Orlando. We've always kind of thrown it out there that maybe one day we want to live in Orlando. We've kind of changed it up throughout the years because of the politics and whatnot in Orlando. So anyways, we were excited about this project. They announced it in July of 2021. I have to sneeze. You felt it.
She's gonna sneeze, so I'm just gonna. So I'm vamping over here. Okay, and I think she's back.
I think I'm okay. Sorry about that. So this was actually set to host employees from Disney's Parks, Experiences, and Products division. So all the Imagineers, kind of. As part of the plans, Disney asked roughly 2,000 Southern California-based employees to relocate to the planned 60-acre campus. This was an $864 million project. It was meant to be a corporate campus. It would consist of 6 office buildings, 2 flex buildings, 3 parking garages, a central plant, and a surface parking lot for visitors. Now, as I'm starting to envision this, I'm like, oh my goodness, they were trying to make a Google compound, right? But for Disney. Genius idea. I still think this needs to come through because to have all of this, and I imagine they wanted to move California out to Orlando because California, we're running out of space over there, right?
Yes.
So Orlando, we've still got a lot of space to grow and revamp and to have all of our wonderful ideas, Imagineers, I guess we should just stick with that one.
Ideasists. I like
ideasists in one area, just creating together in this really beautiful built environment. I mean, it would have been amazing. So the initial plan called for the buildings to range in height from 4 to 7 stories, each with their own parking garages of 6 levels. So think big, big, big.
That's a lot of stories, even for Disney.
This included also.
Get it?
Oh boy. Yeah. I'm still going. I'm still getting through it. This included plans for 60,000 square feet of solar panels. I love you, Disney. I love it. Plus 2 acres of green roofs to meet the commitment to the carbon net zero. Amazing. I would get a job just attending to the green roofs. I think that's so cool.
I had inquired about getting solar panels put on our house, but we have too many trees.
We have so many trees.
So even though we have trees, which helps the environment, we're not allowed to benefit from the sun.
I know.
So
And my gardens fail every year.
Yeah. Anyway.
Womp womp. So once inside
back to Stregonona.
this magical campus, employees and visitors will be able to travel via the internal loop road.
Oh.
So like there would have been like kind of, think of going on a big studio lot. Maybe you'd have your own little cars and stuff. You'd leave your cars in the parking garages, and then you could have little
like when in National Lampoon's European Vacation, and they just keep going around. Hey, look, it's Big Ben Parliament. Kids, look, Big Ben Parliament. You go. Anyway, okay.
So the department moving to the East Coast was the Imagineering team. I think I already mentioned that. Which works with Disney's movies studios to develop more theme park attractions. So what I think is really cool, and they didn't say this, but having so much land, don't you think you would be building and deconstructing and reconstructing certain ride ideas and whatnot all throughout these kind of areas? Because you have this, you know, it's all gated, right? There were like supposed to be 4 ways in which you could come in, which would have security and whatnot. So if you don't have the proper IDs, you want to be able to get in. So I feel like it's another very secretive but like zoned off area where they can
underground tunnels,
make all their secrets happen.
Keep the zombies. Yep.
So
okay.
Okay. So it was supposed to also give Disney a Florida tax credit that would have allowed the company to recoup as much as $570 million over 20 years for building and occupying this complex. So not a bad idea. And it was expected to take course over 18 months, right? So they announced in 2021, I said, and was supposed to be happening. They had, excuse me, my goodness. They had really, they had announced and started having people move from California over to Florida at this time. And then they made the announcement that this campus wouldn't open until 2026. So kind of frustrating people even more. They said they wanted to give individuals more time to move and accommodate the construction timelines for the new offices. We could tell that there were a lot of issues when in 2023, the construction site hadn't moved. There was still dirt. There was nothing happening. And then, of course, if you didn't know this by now, you've been living under a rock, but Ron DeSantis and Disney were going at it, right? So all those things that Disney had envisioned coming to an amazing happening, Ron DeSantis is there saying, no. So anyways, that's my...
Well, that was a great impersonation. They, did SNL, have SNL called you to be on their political team?
Not even close.
Oh, I think after this they will.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, and Disney, as we know over the last couple of years, especially during COVID, there were just a lot of different takeovers. We've seen 2 CEOs go through, and a lot of layoffs, a lot of promises for new different positions. There's just been a lot of turnover and turmoil throughout. So the announcement came that the cancellation of the project was official in May of 2023. Again, some of those employees had already moved.
I know, rough.
And rough. So they said in their announcement that they would figure out the situations about putting those employees back in California.
Rough city.
So bad. But it was, a lot of articles had also said a little bit about how a lot of the employees that had moved were not necessarily like youngins, not with young families and stuff. They were kind of the older Imagineers that they were bringing over. Even so, if I was an older Imagineer and had grown up in California and like lived there with my families and grandchildren and everything, I'd not be happy about moving to Florida. And so then it was also said that perhaps they were trying to phase out some of the older Imagineers by giving this kind of you must move or else forced retirement kind of thing. People don't like to leave Disney. They work there forever. It's a good company to grow with. So
Well, I don't know. Our eyes are on you, Disney. We see your tactics too.
But those were a couple, and there are so many more. It was so interesting to see. I mean, Disney had looked at opening places in Israel and all over. So
there's definitely, I said to Abby, I think there's more than enough interesting stories and information that we could do multiple episodes. We're not going to do them all in a row, but I wouldn't be surprised if you hear more about things that didn't happen.
Things that did not come to be.
So,
how about you, baby?
Yeah,
what kind of research did you do?
Yeah, so I went on a path and I started looking at a bunch of stuff. And there, like Abby said, there's a ton of different... I was kind of looking at more rides and attractions and things inside the parks that started, that started and never got finished. Ideas, things like that. There's a ton of them. Like we could talk about there was supposed to be a Muppet Avenue that didn't happen because Jim Henson passed away. So we just have the Muppet Vision 3D. That was the only part that was fully built. There was Indiana Jones, supposed to be like an Indiana Jones complex built in Disneyland.
We would have liked that.
Yeah, that would have been awesome, right? That would have been more. It was going to have like this, it has the Indiana Jones adventure ride, but it was going to be like a bigger like minecart ride, and it was going to go through parts of the Jungle Cruise would have like went through it, because you could see how that would overlap, right? There'd be some overlapping. Or I guess that would have worked on Jungle Cruise, because Jungle Cruise is there first. Anyway. So I started looking into what is known as, or what would have been known as, the Beastly Kingdom.
Ooh.
I came
that sounds scary. Is it supposed to be scary?
Ooh, beastly. Yeah. Okay. Beauty and the Beast. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So I started looking at the story, and it just went into this big, huge story. Like it brings in, Universal gets brought into it. There's all types of different IPs that get dragged into this story.
Really?
So it was pretty interesting. And that's kind of where I was focused on. Now, in order for, we need to go back. We need to go back in time to the year 1998. I'm gonna set the mood for you.
Okay.
Here's a young Rob, sophomore in college. I had just...
Do you want to know how old I was in 1998?
We're going to talk about that. I just discovered happy hours. And that for $5.50, I could get a pitcher of Busch Light and 20 wings and have a great night ahead of me.
Okay.
So this also, at that point, I still, again, love Disney, totally outside of my range of view. I just, even though the internet was coming about and all this stuff, no idea that any of this stuff was happening, wasn't following. So this was all kind of new to me. Now, Abby was a freshman in high school?
No, sir.
8th grade?
Yes.
Oh my God. I feel creepy. I feel creepy.
I'm sorry.
Just to be everyone's clear, we didn't meet until later in life. We did not know each other at this time. But anyway, now I'm gonna go take a shower after this.
All right, honey. All right. So as you're drinking your beers and eating your wings and enjoying all the things college has to offer.
While this was happening, Animal Kingdom was opening in 1998, right? And it was, at the time, the CEO of Disney was Michael Eisner. And so in Michael Eisner's address, right, that he gave out when they dedicated the Animal Kingdom when it opened, he said this statement: "It was welcome to a kingdom of animals, real, ancient, and imagined. A kingdom ruled by lions, dinosaurs, and dragons. A kingdom of balance, harmony, and survival. A kingdom we enter to share in the wonder, gaze at the beauty, thrill at the drama, and learn." Right? So that kind of encompasses some of the things that we know about Animal Kingdom. But remember, at the time, this was before there was no Pandora, as Abby talked about. But so they say real, ancient, and imagined lions, dinosaurs, and dragons. We have dinosaurs, but where are these dragons? Right? So that got us. Now we're going down the wormhole or the dragon's hole.
Okay.
As they would say. So, like I said, we're back in 1998. Disney Imagineers were certain the park would one day house those imagined creatures in a very impressive land called the Beastly Kingdom. And so this was all supposed to be part of a phase 2 of Animal Kingdom. It opened, obviously, as it was just essentially it's a zoo, right? The basis behind Animal Kingdom at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it is. It's supposed to be a place so you could see the animals being raised in captivity and how they're cared for. And like I said, learning, pulling an Abby, as they call it. So that was supposed to be, Beastly Kingdom was going to be part of the phase 2 expansion. Is a massive addition that was going to bring new life to the park soon after its original opening. Of course, one thing as they were developing Animal Kingdom was that there was a lot of money that was going into it. It costs a lot of money to house all these animals and to keep them fed and keep them happy. And
yeah, always. That seems to be the constant struggle with any park hosting animals.
Yes. So now what was Beastly Kingdom going to be about? One part of Beastly Kingdom, it was going to be 2 parts. Right?
Okay.
So one part was going to be known as, I couldn't get an actual name on it, but like it was supposed to be dedicated to dragons. Right. So there was going to be, you were going to go off to one side of the park and it would be it would look like a town and kind of, they said it would be like gold stores and like corridors of like kind of looking something like, be honest with you, look a little bit like Hogsmeade, I guess is what the pictures would look like.
Okay.
Be something like that, but it would be this immersive park where you would walk in and there would be the barkeep and he would tell you, oh, don't go up that way, because overlooking all this town that you would go through that had shops and such would be something called the Dragon's Tower, which would be this big, mountain that would have this ride that was going to be the centerpiece of this part of the Beastly Kingdom. And it would be called the Dragon's Tower, and it was a dark ride roller coaster hybrid that would bring you through the Dragon's Keep. Right? Very cool. Very something that, immediately you're like, here's a dragon thrill ride, and you would eventually, see a dragon as you go through, and there would probably be treasures in there and bats and all types of things. Pretty interesting, but that would be like the darker side, right? It'd be like
so interesting. So yeah,
something a little more.
I'm really definitely picturing, that like that dungeon alley in Universal where you like go to the dark side. You're like that.
Yes, yeah. Nope, that's exactly what it is. So, and again, they said the ride, a lot of it, kind of they were equating it to Revenge of the Mummy in Universal.
Oh, okay.
Kind of similar in pace to that, right? Okay. Then over to the right, there was going to be like the light, right? It was the dark versus the light side. Okay. And then the light would have all these like big, like ancient Greek statues and these lush gardens and bubbling pools of crystal water, fields of flowers everywhere. Right. And their kind of the centerpiece of that side would have been something called Fantasia Gardens. Oh. Which again would have been a dark ride, but it would have been a family dark ride. And it would have all been about the segment in Fantasia called the Dance of the Hours, which is all like the ballet dancing hippos and crocodiles, all the animals that come up. And so that would have been that part of the ride. Then there would have been in the back of it would have been an actual a hedge maze. Oh. It was called the Quest for the Unicorn. And it was an interactive walkthrough that challenged guests to find and awaken 5 golden idols scattered throughout the maze that would lead you to the home, to be able to see an animatronic, or what looks like to you, unicorn.
Yeah. Ooh.
Right? So that would have been like this quest as you're going to, you're getting lost amongst the weeds and trying to find your way out, and then eventually get to see a unicorn.
Ta-da.
Very cool.
That's amazing. That would have been a lot of Imagineering, though. Whoa.
Oh, definitely a lot of Imagineering. Now, if you're asking where this was supposed to be, this was supposed to be when you walk into Animal Kingdom and you go to the left.
Okay.
To the area that's now known as Pandora.
Oh.
It was going to be there.
Oh.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So, because it wasn't there originally, what was, if anybody remembers, if anyone was going to Animal Kingdom in 1998, what was there was something called Camp Mini Mickey.
Oh.
It was over there. Now, Camp Mini Mickey, they said from the get-go, always felt temporary. They said it never felt like an actual land or a setup.
Okay.
Just something that was thrown together. And that's because essentially it was just it was just housing it until they, figured out what the next step was or gave the official thing. So Camp Mini Mickey was like they're calling it the Toontown equivalent of Disney's Animal Kingdom. Because Toontown over in Disneyland was kind of something that was holding a place until they came up, and now they have Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway in there and all that stuff. It was never really fully developed for a long time. So Camp Mickey Minnie was quaint and charming, populated by meet and greet huts, babbling brooks, and summer camp kiosks. All right. And then there were no attractions, there were no rides in Camp Mini Mickey. It just had like 2 theater areas.
Okay.
One of them housed a show that was called Pocahontas and Her Forest Friends. They said, and people actually really liked it because it was. It sounds
familiar to me. I feel like I've probably seen it at some point.
So it was Pocahontas just like doing animal demonstrations, which is something that's common amongst the animal parks and zoos and such. But she had like possums and. They said possums, snakes, raccoons, rats, porcupines, and birds would come out. And, especially possums. Those guys are creepy.
Yeah.
Little beady eyes glowing at you. Yeah. One of the places I used to work, we had a storage room that was upstairs, and it was never like, there were so many ways. There was no way to keep it like animals out of it. They would just crawl in, when you weren't there, and you would go up to like, it housed insulation. And so we would go up to get the insulation, and like, if you went up first thing in the morning, as you opened the door, and then like you'd look up, it had these like racks that were high up. We never stored anything on. You would just see like a possum staring down at you. Oh, it was like this little guy, Yeah.
No.
It was,
thank you.
Exactly.
Pass.
So
that's so interesting.
Back to Mini Mickey. The other part of it, there was a second show that was called the Festival of the Lion King. Which was just, and this is what it kind of, and then when you hear about this and you think about what that show is now, it was actually just a repurposed idea that they used old parade floats from the Magic Kingdom and then just created this story based, they basically retold the Little Lion King.
Yeah.
And just had it. Now that became like kind of a fan favorite. It drew a lot of attention, more so than the Pocahontas did. And so they ended up deciding to keep that, and they just moved it over to its permanent housing, which, you think about it, like where Pandora is and then where that is, right? It's just up that long walkway and bridge.
Okay, so now
it's right over in the beginning of Africa, the Africa section of Animal Kingdom. So, but it wasn't where it permanently was. There's like very little parts of Beastly Kingdom that were ever kind of seen or created. One of them was when Animal Kingdom started, they had these river boats that much like the riverboats in Epcot would bring you, across to America, bring you across the lake. They had these riverboats that they still have nowadays, but they used to be more like water taxis.
Yeah.
Whereas now they have like characters that come through and they play songs and you kind of hear them and you look at them and then you forget about them. Because you can't go on them. Yeah. But they were bringing people, and so they had a guide and it would bring people from one part of the park to the other. Mm-hmm. It would actually bring you over to, I think that would be Africa. So you wouldn't have to walk, you would just take this ride. Along that ride, it would stop and it would see like little things along the shore. There was like a fire breathing like rock formation that would stop and it would actually like fire would come out of it. And I was like watching it's a video from like 1998.
I love 1998ers. like, let's just put a little fire here. Nobody will get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. See, I like it too. And so, yeah, you would see those, I think they were called, to the park's entrance to Africa. Then, it took you around the Tree of Life. And then there was even a part that would, along the shore, you would see an actual animatronic dinosaur called the iguanodon. Now, if the iguanodon sounds familiar at all, that's the dinosaur that you're supposed to, in what now known as the dinosaur, the ride in Animal Kingdom. Right. That's the dinosaur that you're supposed to go back in time to go get.
Okay.
And bring back. To the present.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So that was like, again, there's a whole nother story about, like I started reading just about the ride dinosaur was originally called Lost Legend, Countdown to Extinction. And then it got changed. We could talk about that in depth another time.
A whole nother episode, right?
Exactly.
That's
so now,
so cool.
So, due to the high costs and the cutting edge of the park, right? Everything just got really expensive. So they had a decision to make. Yeah. They said either they can do Beastly Kingdom or they could do Dinoland.
Okay.
Michael Eisner at the time was looking at it from a business perspective. So it's 1998. They were creating now what's known as the 2000 movie Dinosaur, which came out, was supposed to have these groundbreaking visual effects and it was supposed to be like the next big Disney thing that came out, and it bombed. So he was thinking, he was like, well, we have this dinosaur movie though. Let's, I'm kind of leaning towards this. He had this whole thing with pet projects. I mean, we could even go in and talk about the original idea for Disneyland Paris and how that bombed and like lost like $1 billion from building that. And then what
you win some, you lose some.
Every once in a while, right? Obviously, they were writing off Jurassic Park, which was over in Universal. They were like, again, more dinos, more lands. It makes sense. There'd also be like, there was just a lot more marketing that was involved into dinosaurs at the time than it would have been of, Fantasia, which was an old, even though they had Fantasia 2000, which was about to be a thing. And then, dragons are always part of something. But again, it's just as a cost-cutting ride, they were able to. Their idea was that this dinosaur ride was also, they were just going to use the Indiana Jones Adventure ride from California, just bring it over and make it a dinosaur ride. Cut out all the research that would have to go into it. Right, they already had a working ride. Right, and that's why it's very similar, and that's why it's actually now being replaced. Yeah, it's the Indiana Jones Adventure. Yeah, there's a very cool just how the whole thing was set up.
That is a cool history for sure. I mean, it blows my mind where, again, like as we were saying in the beginning, where it all first started to where it is right now and where it's going.
And now there's one more thing. Beastly Kingdom kind of, goes there. So because of that, right, all the costs they cancel the project. They're like, Beastly Kingdom's too expensive. All this stuff happened. Dinosaur bombs. It's pretty much, they're like, we can't spend any more in the parks. right? And so all these Imagineers ended up leaving.
Yeah.
Because they were like, we're not doing anything right now in 2000. We're not going to build any more in this park. So they ended up leaving, going to Universal.
Oh.
And they ended up building the Lost Continent over in Universal, which featured a dragon roller coaster.
Yes.
Which they say was kind of like the beginning concept of, what was going to be over in Beastly Kingdom. Huh. So all this theming and all this stuff that it came from Disney.
Yeah.
Now you're going to say, what happened to the area that what now obviously it's like a 2000, right?
Yeah.
There was a big gap because when did Pandora opened in what 20?
I'm going to say 16. Let me look it up, Miley.
So there was a big gap. At the time, Disney was in talks with another major movie production to fill that area. And they were in talks with one J.K. Rowling. Yikes. But they were about to purchase the theme park rights to the Harry Potter franchise.
Right.
And bring it into Disneyland. That would have been huge.
Yes.
Right. They were saying that the talks of that kind of stalled, right? They were pretty far along. They almost got there, but that J.K. Rowling didn't want to give away full control, kind of like, because like what Disney did with Star Wars is they just bought Star Wars from Lucasfilms. So they could
do whatever they wanted.
They bought Lucasfilms from George Lucas, so they just do whatever they want. But J.K. Rowling didn't want to give away all of that, and so that is the kind of the Disneyfication of it. They didn't want it to be Disneyfied. Like if you go to, when they originally bought Star Wars, there were things where they were having Star Wars weekend. Yeah. And you would see like Darth Vader dancing to Michael Jackson songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things like that. And so they didn't want that to happen. And that's why Universal, you don't see Harry, Ron, or Hermione, people dressed as them coming and doing shows.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But whereas Disney, Ray's walking through the Galaxy's Edge and, the Baby Yoda and Mando.
But I do feel like that makes a really big difference. Like when you see Ray and Baby Yoda, you're completely immersed and you're you relate to this experience, right? It makes it real for you. The fact that you are in Harry Potter themed world and you don't see Hermione ever, it's kind of a bummer.
Even though people kind of still think of Harry Potter like that, the Wizarding World is more authentic than the Galaxy's Edge.
Okay.
They still kind of they're more blown away with it than unless you're like a big, Star Wars freak like myself.
And I can understand because I think spatially, like when we said how Disneyland was more intimate, and so sometimes the Christmas experience is nicer there, I feel like that's probably the same spatially for the Harry Potter themed world. Spatially, it's in your face and it's very intimate and very small. And so you feel like everywhere you turn, every corner has been accounted for. As for Star Wars Galaxy Edge, they have a lot of places in which they can grow more. And I think that's on purpose because I think they are planning to continuing to grow as the series continues to grow because it's just this never ending thing. Whereas that there was a final ending to Harry Potter, like there wasn't going to be any more. So there's definitely differences there.
No,
so
there is differences. And now that I kind of finished up, that was pretty much all the information I had on the Beastly Kingdom. But I did read some stuff about Star Wars and how they're trying to build the Galaxy's Edge up more. I won't go into full detail, but they are they're now trying to make it more fun, right? Because originally Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you walked into it and the cast members were so supposed to be playing a role that they couldn't answer your questions. So you couldn't, if you asked them where the bathroom was, they couldn't say, oh, the bathroom's over here. Like they had to call it, I forget they call it
they had a different language.
The waste, recycling center or something. I forget exactly what it was. But that's why they say bright suns.
Yes.
In the morning.
But I like that. They say so they're going to do away with it?
Well, no, so they still have it, but they also get to, the restrooms over here. That sort of thing. Or like what time do the fireworks start? And they're like, what are fireworks? Now they answer those questions. They also change the menus down where they're still themed as Star Wars, but
sure,
they're less like, you'll understand that it's just like, a chicken cube. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But the one thing that is cool, and I'll just say this and then we'll move on. Galaxy's Edge, if you look all along, especially right now, you just have it. There's parts where you'll see characters. You'll see Chewbacca, or you see Rey, or they have Ahsoka like standing up on top of the roofs. Those originally were built not just for that, but to be action set pieces. Whereas you would see Rey fighting Kylo Ren in like a lightsaber battle.
Nice.
So they're talking about bringing that back into the parks, and I think that would add more of an interesting component to it.
Yes, 100%.
So, I mean, outside of the parks, and that's why they're saying the Harry Potter versus the Disney, and, you're not going to see a Harry Potter Legoland set being sold in the stores in the Wizarding World, whereas you will at, over in Disney. You'll see the Star Wars Legoland set.
Interesting.
But anyway, so that's my whole thing. That's the Beastly Kingdom. There's a lot more stuff. I mean, we could talk forever about the excavator, things like the Toontown trolley. There was a villain ride, a bullet train. I mean, there's a lot of river cruise, fire mountains, all these things that we could go into, and we will probably at a later time.
At a later time, for sure. I mean, that was really cool. I didn't know about any of that stuff, really. So awesome. Thank you for looking all that up. We've got a lot of current news going on. I mean, so far over at Universal, the Mardi Gras parades have kicked off. They started on February 3rd, which was yesterday. And the food booths are incredible. You'll find the French and Spanish cuisine and so much more. So if you are into a fun party, head on over to Universal.
Who doesn't love fun parties?
So just shortly, I'm going to go over to our friends at Disney Tourist blog because they had a lot of information about this. Just a couple of days ago, there were new construction permits filed for the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser. Uh-oh. So this covers details of the development plus rumors and speculations. My wishful thinking, I should say, for the former Star Cruiser to become a resort building and potential like interactive multi-day experience, it to be converted into just a place in which you could stay. That would be cool.
That would be cool.
I hope that comes very soon.
Is that what the permits are leading to, or they don't?
There's not, I mean, it's all just speculation right now. But I mean, it is a building permit. So they're going to build something, right? Remember, this is a potential resort that doesn't have a pool, doesn't have a parking lot. So what are we going to do? I mean, they took people in box trucks over there with no windows.
Yeah, that's true.
So we definitely need to figure out how that's all gonna look and figure out, and I'm sure they've already got a big plan for it, and I am excited to see where that goes. And you can better believe if it's a resort, we're gonna pop on over there and
give our reviews,
see what we can do. So Disney Springs and Disney, they have their Soulfully celebration happening, which is celebrating Black heritage through an array of delectable dishes and refreshing drinks. Also within the parks, they have the new photo ops to celebrate Black History Month. The Soul Magic Shot is available at the Cloud Wall in Disney California Adventure Park and Disney's Hollywood Studios near Disney Hollywood Studios Arch. The Magic Shot features Joe Gardner on the piano and Dorothea Williams on the saxophone. So that's a cool one. And then, of course, this would be my fave. The Princess and the Frog Magic Shots are available at Disney PhotoPass Studio at Disney Springs. One photo features Tiana's restaurant in the background and Tiana posing with the guests. And the other magic shot features the bayou as the background with the guests holding holding a large lily pad and Ray, the firefly in the corner. So I love those. I love new photo passes. It kind of puts a timestamp on of when you were at the parks, which I like because they are always changing them up, which is fun.
Yeah, you're not going to see a Song of the South magic shot.
No, thank you.
But we'll see a Princess and the Frog.
Yes.
Now I like going back to the Soul one where the saxophonist Dorothea Williams plays. I could actually, also play the saxophone. I played a mean saxophone in my elementary school band. That little wood reed thing that would be in the saxophone, that thing was like all wet and slobbery and stuff.
Wow.
Here's Rob with his retainer trying to play the saxophone.
Rob, do you still have a saxophone somewhere?
I think you know everything I own.
I don't know. There are still about 4 or 5 boxes that you haven't unpacked in the last 2 places we have lived together. So you never know what's in those boxes.
One of these days.
So, hey, next weekend's the Super Bowl.
I mean, that's where people eat soup out of a bowl.
Traditionally, I think it's more like wings and nachos and
eggplant palm grinders,
all sorts of fun things. So just a little bit of, everybody kind of thinks of like, oh, after the Super Bowl, they go to Disney, right? Well, where did this all start? Quarterback Phil Simms was the first player to say he would visit Disney after the 1987 Super Bowl. So this was a Disney commercial. So Disney actually funded this, starring the New York Giants player. And in the commercial, he was asked, now that you've won the Super Bowl, Phil Simms, what are you going to do? And he replied, I'm going to Disney World. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's it. I like it.
He's taking true delight in me.
I like the story.
So the commercial paid Simms $75,000 just to say that one line. $75,000 to say, I'm going to Disney World. 5 words.
Well, imagine what they're getting paid now to do that.
So yeah, this is one of the longest running and most successful marketing campaigns Disney has ever had. So Disney World and Disneyland now seem to be taking turns hosting the annual Super Bowl celebrations, which diehard Disney World fans get really pissy about this, like, because they'll make their reservations to go to Disney World, and for the past, I'm going to say 2 years, because they haven't announced this year, but I'm assuming it's going to be in Disneyland again. They'll make their reservations to go to Disney World expecting to see this parade, because it is a parade. It happens usually about 1:30 p.m. to replace the other parades. And so now it's dependent on where the Super Bowl really is taking place. And this year it's taking place in Las Vegas. So you would assume that because Disneyland's the closer location, that's where they would go. Now, my heart goes out to these fellows that are playing and then have to get up the next day and get on a float and wave very nicely to a bunch of children and fans, because holy moly, their bodies must be hurting like crazy because they are giving it their all through this Super Bowl experience. And I just, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how you turn around and you're just like, now let's just get on a flight and be a family man after all that crazy impact. I don't know why you're laughing at me.
I just love that you're taking the sports segment on this. This is amazing.
Is it amazing?
Yeah.
It's now the time to mention Mr. Sheil Kapadia.
your reading of the Phil Simms line was I was there as a young boy, a lifelong Giants fan. Yes. Watching the Super Bowl alone because his father was a Cowboys fan and didn't want to watch it with him or was somewhere else. So that was amazing.
Well, so you remember watching this?
Yes, I do.
Oh my gosh! Now, when did you see this line?
I was 8 years old.
8 years old.
Yep.
I was a little one. So do you remember the whole experience? Yeah. And did you happen to watch the parade after in Disney, or that wasn't something that was advertised on TV?
I don't know if that was something that was advertised. Maybe that was something in the news the next day, but I wasn't. part of that. I just remember the commercial.
That's awesome. No, I say Shiokapadia because we have a family member who's actually a really good sports caster and podcaster. Yeah. And so I would.
Yeah, he's a sports
He's
writer.
Probably laughing at my little
He works for
spiel.
The Ringer, which is, and he hosts podcasts on Spotify. They're like, it's a national NFL podcast that gets, gets a lot of viewers.
Yeah. Well, he'll be over there at the Super Bowl this year, so he could probably be
Vegas, much to my
first
sister's chagrin.
He could be the first to tell us if they're going to decide on Disney World or Disneyland. Now, again, so we're thinking that this is going to be in Disneyland. And one of the biggest questions among our children is if the Chiefs win, will Taylor Swift attend the Disneyland or Disney World Super Bowl party? Well, she is currently on her Eras tour, as everybody knows, and needs to be in Tokyo, but she will most likely hightail it back to Las Vegas for the game. And it is tradition for the families to join in the Disney celebrations, right? You might just see the quarterback or whoever's invited. I think last year it was
Patrick Mahomes.
Did I get his name? That and he was the only one who came to do the Disney World.
He was the Super Bowl MVP.
But his whole family was there. And actually recently Taylor Swift's beau, his brother, is it Travis or?
So Travis is
it's the brother,
is the one that plays for the Chiefs, and then his brother Jason plays
so
for the
Jason
Eagles.
And his family were just at Disney World, and they had a nice photo app over there, which was really cool. So she, getting back to Taylor Swift, she doesn't have a show again until February 17th over in Melbourne, Australia. So the chances are actually really, really high that she would join if he decides to go to the Disney.
But also, I mean, how could we talk about the NFL without talking about Taylor Swift, right? It's impossible.
Well, yes, she's brought a lot of fun to it. I mean,
a lot more different fan base is now paying attention to the NFL.
Absolutely,
it hasn't. But could you imagine? Like, I don't think there's any way that Taylor Swift could, like, knowing if anyone knows where Taylor Swift is going, it's just going to be mobbed.
It is. And so that's my other concern too, is that, like, she brings a different element and yeah, it's going to be really chaotic.
We should check to make sure we don't have any clients going out to Disneyland
at that time. Yeah. That's actually a good point. I haven't looked at our roster, but
maybe let them know. Like, hey, maybe that might want to be your rest day. The Monday after.
February is a huge travel month. We are busy this month, as well as April is a really, really busy month for us.
But the Disney parks are usually pretty hopping.
They're pretty hopping, especially this coming, President's Day weekend. That's in February. It always sells out. So make sure that you have any sort of dining reservations that you might want to make. Make sure everything's organized and in control and ready to go. We were over that way last year, but this year we're going in a different direction and just assisting all of our clients as they go on their fun journeys. But that's it. That's all I got for the news. It's really exciting. Can't wait to come back and see what's happened next week.
We're going to Disney World.
This has been a Family Travel Planner production.